Hi, hello. So this video comes from a question on the community, and the question was, how can I download a file from a grid? So for example, in the record definition, you can have attachment field, and if you're looking in data management console, there is a functionality that exists that can where you can download the file, zip file, directly from the grid. So the question is, how can I do the same? So first of all, out of the box, you cannot put an icon inside the row. So my example is not going to show that. This will be very different. So, but I'm going to show you can achieve pretty much the same thing. I mean the downloading functionality using creating custom JavaScript action. So here I have a grid with all my DVDs, and for each DVD sometimes I got a picture attached to it, so it's just a standard record definition. So DVD, it's just an attachment field, nothing special, and here for each one of them I have an attachment. I've put the picture of the movie. So the way it's working now is when I click on it, I can download the Matrix movie, picture, silence of the lamp, and I got the recording picture. And so this is how it works. So let's see first of all how we can make an action, trigger an action from when you clicked on a column. So this is available out of the box in the solution. So you can put actions inside the button through the add remove actions, but you can do it also inside a grid for a grid column. So here, for example, for picture, you can see that I checked make column value as an action button. So when you check this checkbox, you will have add remove actions, and you can select your action. So exactly like if it was becoming an action button. So here you can see I have a download file action. That is when I coded. So how it's working, you select your record definition name. So in my case, it's DVD. It's going to load the attachment fields. So I want to download one from picture. And you have to give the record instance ID of the record instance you want to download. So here, this is a trick. So usually if you follow the tutorial, you would go on first selected row and ID to get the instance ID. But if you do that, you can see here that I selected Matrix. But when I click on Terminator, I downloaded the Terminator picture. If you select the first selected row and you click on Terminator, you would actually download Matrix. And if you don't have anything selected and you click on Terminator, you wouldn't do anything. So there is a difference between the first selected row, which is this one, and the row where you actually clicked. So we have a different keyword than first selected row. In this case, we have last action row, where you can get the ID. So when you select a record definition that don't have any attachment field, well, it tells you that there is no attachment field. So here you can see that I selected DVD, I selected the picture attachment field, and I gave my last action row ID. So how is it working in the UI? So I created a custom action download file with 3 input parameters. One is a record definition name, and I'm using the editor that is given out of the box by BMC, so to select a definition, a record definition. Then I have an attachment field, so which is going to show the field IDs. the attachment field available in this record definition. So this one is not available out of the box, so we are going to see how we can create one. And the last one is a record instance ID. It's a standard variable. So how can I create a custom editor download file attachment field picker? So we created some already for view components for design time, but for an action it's a bit different. So I created a subfolder editor with download file attachment with a directive with this code and its template. The name of the directive must exactly be the name that you define in the editor. The only difference is it's camel case, so you replace the dash and the next letter by an uppercase, download file attachment field picker. So the template, you can see that I got my label, so attachment field, which comes from here. It's options, option tooltip and option labels. So I don't have a tooltip, so it's only displaying the label. And here it's going to select, it's going to display or there are no attachment field to select or a select or drop down. So now what is the ID behind it? The ID behind it is to get the record definition name selected by the user, grab a list of all attachment field from this record definition, and select automatically the field that has been selected previously by the user, if any. So how can we do that? So all the input parameters are stored in a special object, which is scope cell rx data, and then the name of the input parameter. So record definition name, attachment field, record instance ID. So if I want to get the record definition name, I have to do scope.cell.prop and the path of the value of the input parameter I want to get. So I have to do scope cell prop rx data record definition name. Here I'm getting the previous value, the already saved value for the attachment. So I could give rx data slash attachment field, but because my editor is the one working for the attachment field, the path is actually already rx data slash attachment field. So anyway, I'm getting the record definition name, the attachment field, then I'm getting, I'm calling this function, and this function is going to give me all the attachment field list for this record definition. So I'm using the object rx designer cache, which is a BMC out of the box object that can give you a record definition for a given record definition name. So it's going to give you the field definitions, permissions, and everything. So if it's not cached, it will fetch it from the server, and if it's cached, it will give it to you from the cache. So here I'm getting the data field that I'm going to use here in my dropdown. I get all the fields from the record definition, but I filter by the attachment type because I don't need like characters and everything. And for each one of them, I'm going to create an array with ID and name, because I'm only interested in the field ID and the field name. I don't want the permissions and everything. So here I would have, it's going to display automatically the field by field name and a track by field ID. So once I got my attachment field list, I'm going to see if in this field list I have the attachment field I selected previously. And if I did, it's going to be saved in scope data select field ID that is used by the ng model. So that's why automatically when you open an existing setting, you have the DVD already selected and the picture field already selected. So once I'm here, I'm going to listen to data selected field. So this field, this value, because I want to react, I want to do something when the value changes, or when, for example, the user changes, selects another record instance attachment field. So when it happens, I'm watching for it, and when the value is different, I'm going to save the value. So here you can see that I'm using also cell prop. Cell prop works as a get and a set. So if you are doing scope cell prop and a path, it's going to be a get. If you do call cell prop a path and a value, is going to serve as a set. So here I'm saving inside attachment field the value that the user selected. Then I have another watch using the change event from the cell. So if anything changes on the cell, it's going to fire. And here I'm checking that the property path is the same as the record definition name path. So this path. So basically I'm listening to every change on the cell. And if the change concerns the record definition name, I want to do something, because if the user changed the record definition name, I want to redo the attachment field list. So here I'm getting the new record definition name, and if I have one, I'm getting the list again. So you will have something like that. And here if I don't have any, I'm not displaying anything. So that's the way it's working for the design. So it's a bit not user friendly, to be honest. Once you do it a couple of times, it will be easier. But yeah, and it's a bit different than the view component. So once you're done with the design time, it's time for the execution. So what I want to do now is, when I click on matrix or on a column, I'm going to pass to my code, so the record definition name, the field ID, the attachment field ID, and the selected row, in the last action row, instance ID. So I want to download this file. So which means I have to get the attachment for this specific field ID and instance ID, prepare it, and make it available. So we already saw pretty much this code already in the previous example to display a picture from an attachment, so it's not anything very new on this one. So when I execute my action, I have my three input parameters, so the record definition name, the attachment field, and the record instance ID. So once again, the order is very important, the names are very important, so it must be the same order as defined here with exactly the same names. So I have my record definition name, so I'm using rx record instant attachment resource because I'm going to download an attachment file. So we saw that already for this record definition name. Then I'm calling a get method for this object, passing the record instance ID and the attachment field ID. So I'm getting a file stream, so basically I'm getting the picture. And if I have a picture, so here this bunch of code is something coming from internet, so it's just that you are going to create an object, and this object contains all the bytes from your attachment, so you can download it. Then we are going to use save as, which is a library we embed that you can find also on the internet, but we are providing it out of the box to say, well, it's going to trigger a download from your web browser using this file, so which is a blob with this name. And that's pretty much all. After that, we are going to return action result, okay? And in case there is any error, where we are going actually to reject, so the following action will not execute. So that's the way it's working. So it's a part of out of the box, so using the possibility to have actions on column and displaying the names of attachments inside the grid, and you need a custom JavaScript action sadly to download the file. So the good thing is, once you have this custom JavaScript action, you can use it in all your code, and you can make the files downloaded from your grid. So it's not perfect because you don't have the icons, but for now it's not something we allow, and the way to do it would be a bit not really user friendly. So you would have basically to, it's another example I posted recently in the view component where you can use a custom grid. So you can use our grid, BMC grid, so which is Rx record with definition, passing a grid configuration object. And in this grid configuration object, you have a list of columns. And inside actually the columns, you have the possibility to provide a template. And inside this template, you can put any HTML code you want. So you could put like you could add a little icon, and you could say, well, when I click on it, I want to execute that. So that's the way it's actually working for the data load console. The problem is, in this case, you would lose pretty much all the functionalities from the grid. I don't know why she triggers. Anyway, so you would lose pretty much everything you have in the grid. So all the data dictionary and so on, just to add a little icon. Technically, you could add an icon using a view component and trying to find the value or the column and add automatically a picture on it, but I'm not sure it's really worth the pain. So anyway, I think it's easier to do it this way, and even if you don't have pictures for now.